Welcome to another episode of Unscripted with Marilyn Morales. I am so excited for today's show. My next guest today, I met in person just recently, but before that, we had a virtual call, and I was so inspired by her. I had reached out to her because I saw her singing on a video on Facebook, and something inside of me said, I need to meet this young lady. I had been planning a speech that I recently did. I was a speaker at an event, and I was thinking of doing something, and I knew that she was the right person for the job. And thankfully, she said yes. And we truly made an impact that day on the Warrior Women Bomb Global Women's Conference. But let me share with you who my next guest is. Her name is Reinilda Perez, better known as Rain. She is 48 years old from my hometown of Brooklyn, New York. She shares with us that she is an HIV positive woman, was also a two-time cancer survivor. I didn't even know that when I first saw her. And as you all know, my platform has to do with families who are afflicted with cancer, their survival of cancer, lives after cancer. And I did not know that when I first saw Rain. She's a beautiful, beautiful woman. And I know that she is here on this earth for a very special reason. Now, she is a survivor of Hodgkins lymphoma in 2010, relapsed in 2015. Doctors opted for a stem cell transplant in 2015. Again, Izzy's legacy speaking right through here. Thankfully, she has been cancer free for 8 years now. She was a widow to COVID 19. And if that's not enough, I don't know what is, she says. I have heard my own story many times, and it's by the grace of God that I am still standing and writing this story. Grew up in Bushwick, Brooklyn, and I had a great childhood playing with my friends and running in the park like a typical child would back in my day too. I joined the church at the early age of 10, and I saw a bus with Yogi Bear on it and asked my mom if I could join, and she said yes. And that's when I found God. Finding God at 10, love it. I also was a good student in school and always made the honor roll. And as life went on, I joined the NYPD School Safety Division at 22 years of age because she really loved children. I thought I would retire from this job, but cancer stopped that idea after 2015 when I medically retired. I operated and owned a music recording studio for 7 years and lost it to COVID 19. I am here for purpose more than myself, and as long as I can live and breathe, I will tell the world my story and hopefully, not hopefully, she is, impact the world with my message of living your best life now. Let's welcome Rain to the show. Hello, beautiful.
Hi, Marilyn. Good
What
morning.
a bio, girlfriend. What a bio,
Whew. Doesn't sound like my story, but it's my story.
right? Isn't sometimes you hear your story and you're like, oh my God, the things that you have been through. And when I started hearing, when you and I had our first virtual Zoom, right? I knew none of this, knew nothing of how close your story was to my platform, to Izzy's legacy platform of cancer, survival, resilience, all the things that you embody.
Right.
And we know you're here for a reason. If you're not here for a reason, I don't know who is. I just said that to you, right?
Yes, I
To
know.
survive and live with HIV, to have cancer come into your life a couple of years after that, relapse, go through a stem cell transplant. Well, I will tell you, as a mom of somebody who went through that, how life threatening that process is, right?
Right.
Every day, you don't know if you're going to make it.
No, you don't.
So, talk to me a little bit about that. Talk to me. Start from the beginning for me.
Okay, so when I was diagnosed with HIV, I was 30 years old and I was married at the time. And he got sick. He got really, really sick. He said he didn't know. I'm not sure of the story on that part, right? But my heart is so big and I loved him and he was my husband. So I believed what he said. And to this day, I don't hold any grudges or anything. I believe that as adults, we make our decisions. So we got married, and 2 years later, he wound up with some type of boils on his head. And I remember calling his mom, and I said, he's running a fever and he has these boils. And she said, take him to the hospital right now. And so I did. And I'm telling you, that saved his life, because he had, like, if you know anything about HIV, it's your T cells that they look for, and he was with two left. And the
Wow.
human body normally holds 1,500, and he only had two left, so he was hanging on by a thread. And I was working for the police department at the time, so when I was at the hospital, I had to go back to work, unfortunately, because you have to fulfill your duties at work. I was waiting to see what was happening, and then I came back to the hospital, and he told me he had AIDS, and
So
I
you
was
didn't know before
I didn't
this.
know anything, and I was like, what? So the person that I am, and I've always been, is very loving, caring, and I was trying to understand what was happening. And I said, okay, well, I'm here for you, right? I didn't even think
Right.
about myself at the time, because I'm always like that, selfless. And then he was like, you got to get tested. And I was like, what? Like, it didn't hit me until that point when he said, you got to get tested. So anyway, I did get tested, moving forward, by they called it a peer counselor. I never forget his name. His name was Jimmy. He was a Spanish man. He was so cool. And his mom came with me, Sean. I'm not supposed to say his name. His mom came with me, and she was sitting outside, and they did like a rapid test. And 20 minutes later, I was HIV positive. And I was like,
Wow.
I breathed, and I came out the office. I told his mom, and I said, okay, what's next? That's literally how I took it. Now, I had my nights of crying later, but the initial impact was, there's nothing I can do now. I fell in love with this man. I didn't know the situation. And when I look when I studied the story, because I'm very intelligent, I put things together. And I
Right.
said, I was raising his daughter at the time, and his daughter's mom passed away when she was 3. So at that time, they called it cancer. So
Mm.
I kind of put it together as time went on, that that's probably what she passed it to him, and then here
Right.
comes me, right? So that's what I gathered from the whole story. But when I first got it, they don't opt for medicine right away. They kind of monitor it and things of that nature. And so it took 2 years for me to actually get on medication. And when that happened, that's when the cancer came in. So I feel that my body wasn't even being protected for those 2 years while I was carrying the HIV, and then it turned into a cancer,
It turned
because
into a cancer, which
right.
can happen, right? Because this is all a disease of your immune system, right? So you're left with no immune system and subject to a lot of different things that are happening. Um,
Whew.
so being HIV positive doesn't mean that you have full blown AIDS. And I want those that may not understand that, right? So that's
You,
an important distinction, right?
right.
You
A
don't
lot of people,
have AIDS. You
they're
just
not
have this thing living in your body.
right. They're not educated to understand that it's two different things. I've had people tell me, "Oh, you have AIDS," and I'm like, "No, you're being very ignorant to
Mm,
the disease. It does not." And times have changed so much that it's now my doctor. He's been doing it for years and years and years. I have an awesome doctor, and he says it's like monitoring. It's easier than monitoring high blood pressure at this point, because the medication keeps it undetectable. And
correct.
after like 6 months of taking that medication, it's not even transferable. So
Right.
those are things that I want people to know and understand. And so I'm able to live with it. Thank you, by the grace of God, because when it first came about, people were dropping like flies. And my ex-husband is still, he's my ex-husband now, but he's still alive and well and living his life. So yeah.
Living his life.
Yeah.
So, and thankfully, I mean, you saved his life by taking him to the hospital and identifying what he had. Did you ever have the conversation with him? And I know people were wondering. I didn't have asked you that. Did you go back to him and say, "Did you know? Did you know
Of
you had this
course,
before?"
of course, I did. He was always a sweetheart. He was a good-hearted man. And I said to him, I said, "How did you not know, like, this was?" And he told me, he said, "I didn't know. You didn't know." I think he went through something with losing her mom, that he
Right.
probably is a black man in America. You know, sometimes they just don't go to the doctor, they don't check
They
themselves.
don't. Right.
Right. And
Not just them, a lot of us. Let's
yeah.
be honest.
And all right, so let me take that back. But yeah, I really believe that he was being, transparent with me, really open and honest that he didn't know, because he had a rough life. And then he had a daughter, and then 3 years later the mom passes, and he was really in love with her. So that devastation, and then he was just doing his best to raise her. So here I come with a ready-made family, and I was 22 when I met him, and I was like,
Wow.
I fell in love with the idea of a family, because he was
Yeah.
already a package deal, and I was like, oh, I like this because I love children.
Hmm.
So I wound up raising her for 10 years and things, but we wound up divorcing later for other reasons. And, it is what it is. He went on his
Right.
way, I went on mine, and he always comes back and thanks me for helping him through that time, and, through his, helping his daughter's life and things like that. So it's a
Listen,
time
that
in my
speaks to you
life.
as a person, the grace and resilience that you showed at that moment. Love is a powerful emotion. Love will get us to do things we ordinarily would not, right? So a lot of people would have said, "Oh, well, that's it. You got this. I'm out of here," right?
Right,
And I'm mad because now I got to live my life differently because of this. But you didn't do that, right? You let love guide your heart and your thoughts and your emotions and your decisions,
right,
right? What do you think it sounds to me like you're naturally like that. That wasn't something that you learned. Or do you
right.
feel that some of that resilience that you had was learned?
My mom is the same as me. So I'm just like my mom. She's always been very loving, very caring. So I think I got a lot of my resilience from my mom, because I've seen her go through a lot of things. Latina moms, we go through so much and they don't really talk about it, but I've seen it. I was able to identify when my mom was hurting, or when my mom was, but she was always feeding the neighborhood, always helping the children. And we have education in our family. Like, a lot of people in my family are teachers or work with the children. So she has a loving heart. And I realized that I'm like my mom's twin. So I'm just
You have
like
that
my mom.
heart.
She's the same. I'm like, I didn't realize until I became an adult. And I'm like, wait, this sounds like my mom. I'm like, I'm just like my mother. So she's loving, I'm loving, and we lead with love. We always care about people. We try to see the silver lining in the cloud. And when you
Right.
love somebody, you're not supposed to just drop them because it's a bad situation. I believe in God and I believe in the Bible, and it says when you get married is for better, for worse, for sickness. Both sickness and in health. Like, it's not just one-sided. You can't always think that everything's going to be a walking rainbow. So I married him with love. And so he was going through something. I'm not supposed to be like, oh, right, I don't love you anymore, let me just walk away. That's why I wore my
Right.
shirt with love, because
Love.
I believe that God is love, and we're supposed to be the image of God when we're serving mankind. So even though we all fall short, because all of us have flaws and we all fall short, we have to love imperfect people perfectly. And I learned that, as I was going. I got that from Steve Harvey.
Listen, perfection is something that I would say it's an illusion. There's no such thing as perfect.
Right,
We are all imperfectly perfect,
right. And I love
right?
so
And love has to guide our decisions. A lot of as humans, we make decisions, right, that are not ideal. And if other people looking on the outside in would say, "Oh my God, I wouldn't do that," and are very judgy, right? And I would say, don't judge. We don't know the heart of the person and the reason that they may have done. And sometimes we do dumb things out of love, but because the emotion was love that drove us to do it, right? I would say we have to look at that differently. Love
right,
is what guided me to do this. And it may not have been the best decision, but love is what caused me to do it. Sometimes there's a lesson
yeah,
that needed to be learned either by you or the person that you are making this decision that it affected, right?
right.
But that was part of the lesson that we're here to learn to grow our soul. We're here to grow our souls.
Amen.
And that's part of it. And love has to be your guiding reason for doing whatever it is that you do.
Right.
Not anger, not all these other emotions that guide our decisions, love.
Right.
Because I think that wherever love is and God is love, that's just like you said, then there's the lesson, there's the growth, and
Amen.
there's the next stage in our lives.
I
So
believe
with you, and
doing
we just had this
doing
as at the event that we just attended, right?
I
That we talk about the
oh
resilience within,
right,
right? You
right,
talk about your mom and the things that you picked up. But I also want to showcase the fact that yes, we are born with this and we just have to tap into it. But you had a great model, right? So it's also not just what you have inside, but being able to model that on the outside,
right.
being unapologetically who you are and not caring what people think,
No.
right? And being that positive role model is then what's going to inspire another little girl to
Amen.
want to be like you,
Amen.
right? So,
That's
amen, sister.
what I live for.
Now, the next stage, right? We talk about next stages. Now, you're surviving with HIV positive diagnosis. Now you get cancer. Talk to me about that. Double
So
whammy.
I remember getting a sharp pain. I was taking a nap. I work for school safety division with the kids in the New York City school system, and every day I come home, I'll be exhausted. So I remember taking a nap, and I felt a sharp pain, and I reached up to say, "Wow, what was that?" And I reached under my arm because I don't know, something. I guess God had me reach under my arm. I didn't even realize there was a lump there because I was always kind of heavy set, so
Yeah.
underneath was a little bit extra, chunkiness. But it was a mass about this wide and about that thick, right? And I was like, this feels weird. So I went to the doctor, Dr. Morgan, I never forget. And she always called me Queen all the time. She said, your name means Queen. So she would never call me in the doctor's office as my name. She would say, Queen, come to the office. And she tested it. She thought it was an abscess and she gave me medication. But 10 days later, it didn't go away. So I came back to her and she said, oh, you need a biopsy. And I'm like, oh, what? I never been hospitalized, never had children, any of those things. So I was like,
And
oh,
you weren't having any other symptom except the lump.
nothing, just the lump. So the lump was
Okay.
the indicator of some type of trouble. 2 weeks later, they gave me the results, and it was Hodgkins lymphoma. So she told me immediately you have to start chemo, and that was at a Brooklyn hospital. I had gotten diagnosed, but I got a word through family members to go to a cancer hospital where they specialize. So I wind up at Memorial Sloan Kettering Hospital in Manhattan, and
One of the
they
best
started
cancer hospitals.
chemo immediately. Yeah, 6 months of chemo I had to go through, and so during that time, it was really really hard because I was still working, and it was getting harder to go to work, and then so I had to figure a way to stay home and take chemo because you'll take chemo 1 week and then you're off a week. But when you take the chemo, you really feel sick, really
Yeah.
nauseous, and so I was getting weaker. I didn't lose my hair at that time. That treatment, I didn't lose my hair, but my hair was like long, like yours. They told
Hmm.
me to cut it, so that
In
when
preparation.
in preparation, so if when it falls out mentally, psychologically, it would be better when it falls out. But that time in 2010, I never lost my hair. I just was really sick, and I was off of work for about 3 months. And after 6 months, I was good. And I was singing. I was singing at the end of the last chemo because chemo is a lot. Your body. I took it through my veins at that time,
Right.
and feel your veins getting coldness of the IV. It was a lot. I mean, mentally, I did a lot of positive thinking, a lot of praying, and I got through. But I laughed through everything. Like I'm always laughing. People are like, why
Yeah, you got a cheerful disposition all
they
the
like, why
time.
you always
All the
laughing?
time.
I'm like, I'm trying to get through this in the most positive way that I can because I wanted to live. And so after 6 months, I was fine, and then I went back to work like it was nothing. It was weird. Like I went back to work, and I worked for 5 years in the police department, and then 5 years later, it came back, and I was like, oh my gosh! So the second time, do you want me to talk about the second time?
So yeah, how did you know that it came back? What
So
was
the
your
second
sign then?
I had gotten some type of cold, and right on the side of my neck, we have glands, and these
Yep.
glands had swelled up, and so it was kind of big. Like it was noticeable. When your face changes and stuff, and then it became painful, and I had it for about 30 days. And so I remember being at work, and I was in pain. I was still working in my uniform. My friend called me. May she rest in peace. She didn't survive cancer the second time. She was a breast cancer survivor first time. And Seisha Wilshire, I never forget. And she said, I feel you in my spirit. What's going on? And I said, I have this pain in my neck. She said, clock out and go to the doctor. So I went to a doctor, like one of them urgent cares, and he was a really nice Indian man. He says, that doesn't look good. You being that your history of cancer before, you need to see your oncologist. So I went to back to the hospital, and I remember the chief of the hospital. I never forget. So this is why I always tell people, push whatever you feel, because the chief looked at me and pointed and said, "That's not cancer." He told me that, and I said, I don't care what you're saying right now or what you're thinking. This has been here for 30 days and I'm in pain. I need a biopsy. And he opted for it, and it was cancer for the second time.
And what did he say once it came back positive?
He of course he's apologetic, like he's I'm sorry and things like that. But thank God that I didn't listen to him, because I
That's
was.
right. I think that's I really really want to make that point. Advocate for yourselves, people. You know your body. When you're talking about me as a mom and as a child and what I had to do for my daughter when she was diagnosed with cancer, what the doctors were telling me, oh no, it's just this, it's just that. That you have to advocate, you have to push.
Yes,
Doesn't matter. We tend to look at the like white coats, right? The the physicians as be all end all. No. If you feel that there is something, please look into it. Listen to your bodies. Another lesson here, right? Something doesn't look right, it probably isn't right. It could be nothing. It could be something. But there's nothing wrong with it. Don't be so scared that fear doesn't allow you to take that next step and make sure that you're okay.
amen.
Right? Because you did that. You took those steps to make
I,
sure that you were okay. And then you dealt with the situation that you were handed over and over and over again. Right?
whew,
So you survived it 2 times,
2 times.
right? 2 times. And chemo kills cancer cells, but it also kills off a lot of other things, right? This is why it makes us feel so sick. But here you are, God bless. You are here now to speak on it. And one of the things that you mentioned in your bio is your message to the world, right? Is what? Live your best life now. Talk to
Now,
me about your message.
living my best life, living your best life, because my new nonprofit is living your best life. I tell
That's
people,
right.
we only have one life. We only have one life, and I can't stress that enough. We all know, right? The beauty of coming in the world, right, is the day you were born, and then the also beautiful day is learning your purpose, right? Because one day this life will pass us by. We always see people passing away the next day, and I saw Blow Joe last week, right? And then for there goes I, because one day somebody's going to talk about you in the past. And I say, live your best life now. Serve those people that you want to serve. Do the things you want to do. Fulfill your dreams, your visions, because God gives us visions all the time. And a lot of us are afraid to step out on faith on our visions that God has given us. So you know what? I say, I was one of them with my voice. You heard my beautiful voice, but I haven't been using my voice the way I should have been using
That's
it.
right.
I was afraid to use it because I didn't think I was enough. I didn't think it was good enough. I didn't think that God had anything for me to serve this world. And I realized I'm allowing the enemy to tell me that I'm not enough, and I am enough. So when you live your best life, get up every day with gratitude, grateful for what you currently have, grateful for your life, grateful for all your limbs working. Being healthy is a big deal. It really is,
Yes.
because there's so many people that didn't make it, or so many people that are not well, and they're fighting just to be healthy. So living your best life is living your truth, being free to say whatever it is you feel on your heart. Talk to those people that you love, give them hugs, give them kisses, give them admirations, give people their flowers while they're here, because you know, sometimes we live with regrets because we didn't say what we needed to say at that very moment in
Right.
time. And you can't get those moments back. So time is of the essence, people. I'm like, live your best life. That's my motto. And it's not according to how you like somebody tells you how to live. Feel whatever makes you feel at peace. If it brings you drama or a negativity, I don't deal with it. I always say, if I don't walk in the room and people are not celebrating me as a human being, I don't want to be in that room. I'd rather be in a different room, because there's somebody that wants to hear my story. There's somebody that wants to pour into me, and we pour into each other, you know. So I live my best life. Like, if you're at a party, which I love, I'm going to a party tomorrow. I'm always dancing. I dance all night long. I don't care who's watching, who's not, because that's how you should live your life, you know, and smile, like Marilyn's smiling right now.
You make me happy. I have to tell you, I absolutely love your message. I absolutely love what you're about. And if we're going to listen to somebody, guys, who we're going to listen to? Somebody who has beat death and is here today and can share. Listen, I beat death right now, but it's going to come to all of us. One day, it's going to be our day. May not be yesterday, may not be today, may not be tomorrow, but it's coming for all of us. What are we going to do with the rest of the days that are left? Today begins a new day. Every time you wake up, be grateful, have gratitude, just like you say.
Amen.
Health is a big deal. I love that. Health is a big deal. And healthy is a lot of things. It doesn't mean having the perfect body, perfect hair, perfect makeup. It doesn't mean that, right? Health means is a mindset. I feel good. I feel good today. I feel so good today that I'm going to do something good with this body that God gave me.
Amen.
Let's stay out of this stuck mindset that we have, that things need to be perfect, because perfection is such an illusion. It doesn't exist. Be who you are today. Make 100% use of everything that you have at your disposal today. Before we go, I want to hear about your nonprofit and what are the plans for that nonprofit?
The nonprofit is okay. So my biggest go-to, because there's a lot of them, but the biggest go-to is we're going to be going around doing a show. Myself and another young man who's a cancer survivor, we're going to be bringing cancer awareness, and we're both singers. And so the cancer awareness, as well as music, we're going to have some theater in it, and it's just going to be a positive message. We want to change the world by like one show at a time. So that's the goal. You know, eventually we'll be helping children, we'll be helping adults, all at the same time. But that's the first one. And then we do want to specify, it's going to be called Life Over Dinner, because a lot of us have last wishes that we don't share with our loved ones, and we believe that's a big deal. You know, people are scrambling at the last minute to get things done, and who better to hear about your last wishes than you? Like, so
that's right.
Right. That's gonna be one of our focal points. My guy, my future husband is a chef, and so he'll be bringing the food. We'll be bringing the
Oh
singing.
my God, I love it. I love it. And I see 100% collaboration is his legacy. And you guys, we're going to have a huge event together. You just heard it right here today. Okay. This is a huge thing for me. I 100% believe in what you're talking about. Last wishes, so important. I know my mother passed in 2020, in March of 2020, unfortunately, to a devastating stroke. And fortunately, she and I had a conversation about her last wishes the day before her stroke. Had that not, even though I knew certain things that she wanted, I didn't know everything. And we were blessed to have that conversation the day before. And thankfully, because it was so unexpected. She was young, she was 78, could run circles around me, totally unexpected. So I am very passionate about that very same subject. Thank you for sharing that. So yeah, let's get to it. We're gonna have some great things happening in the future. And with that, Rain, tell me, what is your definition of success?
My definition of success is to wake up healthy and happy. That is my definition.
Amen.
Of success.
Yes.
No money attached to that. Just waking up happy and healthy, because no money can replace that.
Thank you. And with that, guys, I will see you next time. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. And we look forward to seeing you rise in the future. Thank you again, guys. See you next time.